So good evening and a very warm welcome to Tara Institute. My name is Ashvini and I have been presenting Monday nights this month. So our resident Lama, resident teacher, Venerable Geshe Doga, often reminds us to carefully check our motivation before we do any action. In fact, just last week, teachings last Tuesday, he emphasized that the intention preceding any action determines whether it is beneficial for us or not. This is because our intention or motivation can really transform our very experience. So, why we do something, can have a profound effect on whether it's beneficial or not. Whether we have a happy experience or not. So with that in mind, let's start this session by examining and resetting our motivation. So if we would just bring our minds home and just focus on our breath to stabilize the mind, just for a couple of moments. So, think about what brought you here tonight and what you will hope to achieve from this session. Generate a sincere wish that the time spent here tonight may be of utmost benefit to you and your loved ones, and those that you may come in contact with. And if you like, you can extend that wish to be of benefit to all sentient beings. People you may never come in contact with, animals, birds, insects, all living beings everywhere. Is anyone here for the first time? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So this session is open to people of all beliefs or no beliefs, and the aim of these sessions is to be thought-provoking. The purpose of Monday nights is to introduce some ideas that are explored in detail in Buddhist philosophy and psychology. So in our time together, we'll do some meditation together. I'll make a small presentation and hopefully have some discussion at the end if there are some questions. So as I have been saying each week, the Buddhist teachers, starting from Shakyamuni Buddha himself, remind us that it's very important to test what we hear, using our own wisdom, intelligence, and ultimately validating it with our own experience. So we can't take someone's word or experience and just make it our own. If only it was that easy. So we have to digest it, then test it, accept it or reject it. And if we accept it, then we have the chance to integrate it with our day-to-day lives. So I will, with that in mind, we can turn to a topic of discussion this month. We have been talking about the Four Noble Truths. The first teaching Shakyamuni Buddha gave after he attained his ultimate goal, the state of enlightenment, the state of cessation of all suffering. So as a reminder for us, I'll just, refresher, I'll just recap very quickly what we have discussed over the last 3 weeks. So Buddha was not satisfied with what he saw as our ordinary experience. He saw that it was pervaded with dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, a state of ill-being, experiences that we would rather not have. So some of this unsatisfactoriness is quite obvious to us. For example, unpleasant physical sensations that we would rather not like pain, hunger, cold, sickness. Or mental experiences like anxiety, sadness, separation from loved ones. So this is the first kind of dukkha, the dukkha of pain. And importantly, we discussed that the dukkha is our mental experience of these events and not the events themselves. But the Buddha also saw that the things that we ordinarily perceive as happiness or pleasures are also in the nature of unsatisfactoriness. So, for example, our experience of eating a nice meal, getting a massage, watching a good movie, enjoying a day at the beach, having a good conversation with a friend. So all these are also in the nature of dukkha or unsatisfactoriness. So how is that? First of all, these experiences do not last. And it never satisfies. We always want more. But if we have more, we like it less. So either we get bored with it, or it's not stimulating anymore. We want something new, something different. And it turns into unsatisfactoriness. So we want more chocolate, but if we eat more, it stops being pleasant. Yet we want more. So also this kind of happiness or pleasure leaves us a bit insecure. We never know what's going to come next or when it is going to end. So our moods are always, shifting from pleasure to pain or, from happiness to unhappiness. So this is the second kind of dukkha Buddha explained, which is called viparinama dukkha, or the unsatisfactoriness of change. So Buddha taught that we don't have to just keep jumping endlessly from one fleeting experience, pleasurable experience, to another, and not being able to rest and enjoy happiness for long. We can actually build and deepen an internal sense of happiness, a peaceful state that's not fleeting, that stays with us, no matter what happens around us. And we talked about, last week, we talked about the third kind of suffering, which is the sanskara dukkha, or all-pervasive suffering, which is a mechanism by which we perpetuate the first two kinds of sufferings. So Buddha did not accept that it had to be this way. You're cycling uncontrollably between pain and pleasure, so trying to push one away and pull the other closer. He did not believe that this was the true nature of our being. So then we talked about the second noble truth, where Buddha taught that this truth, the truth of the origin of dukkha, the origin of suffering. So Buddha taught that suffering does not arise randomly or without causes, and identified three causes for it, for our suffering to arise. Our ignorance, our confusion, our unawareness, disturbing emotions, and karma, the compelling actions that we do under the influence of disturbing emotions. So Buddha's insight was that suffering and all its causes come from our own mind, they don't come externally. Suffering is felt in the mind, it is created in the mind. So last week we talked about ignorance, unawareness or misapprehension about the way in which we exist. We fabricate this solid, unchanging, independent sense of I, which is depending on these ever-flowing, ever-changing streams of body and mind. Our body is changing all the time, our mind is changing all the time, yet the sense of self-image of I is somehow solid, permanent and static. We just believe that it's there. So, in order to enhance or protect this image that we fabricate, so we divide the world into things that we want or we don't want. And rest of our life becomes an unceasing struggle to pull and push towards or away from these things. So, this never-ending struggle gives rise to disturbing emotions, anger, jealousy, sadness, pride, and these compulsive urges, acting uncontrollably, unthinkingly, the karma. So, all this fear of confused activity is the source of all our suffering. So this was where we were up to last week. And so we have two more noble truths to discuss today. So the third noble truth, the truth of cessation, where Buddha demonstrated the ability that we all have to transcend this state of ill-being to a state of perfect well-being, perfect happiness, where we achieve, we have no suffering, no matter what happens externally. And in the fourth noble truth, Buddha taught the path to cessation of suffering, the causes that we need to create in order to rest in the state of perfect happiness. So, in the sutras, I found a good way that summarizes all this, which is, they can be understood as, the suffering is the subject to be known. The true cause of suffering is to be abandoned. The cessation of suffering is to be actualized. And the true path is to be relied on to accomplish the end of suffering. This was the advice of Buddha in revealing the four noble truths. So, we'll discuss the third and the fourth noble truth today, but before that, we start with the presentation. Let's do a short meditation together. So, today, we're going to do a meditation on the clarity of mind. This meditation is said to give us a direct experience of the clear and non-material nature of our mind and the transient nature of the thoughts, feelings and perceptions that arise in our mind. So in Buddhism, the mind is said to have two defining characteristics. It's clear and it's knowing. So at a basic level, the clarity of the mind is its ability to reflect objects. And because of this clarity, the mind can cognize or know objects that appear to it. So sometimes we use the analogy of sky to understand this. So the clear nature of mind is likened to clear sky, which is the spaciousness to let the objects arise, objects of cognition arise in it. And the knowing nature of the mind has the function of cognizing the objects that arise. So, by its nature, the sky is always unobscured. So the thoughts or whatever activity happens in our mind can be likened to clouds in the sky. You know how the clouds obscure the sky till they're blown away by the wind. So, the activity of the mind in the backdrop of a clear, spacious, clear nature of the mind. You have to be able to see them differently. So it's same with our mind. The basic nature of mind, our mind is clear, and the thoughts that arise are like clouds arising in the sky. They're temporary and not in the nature of the mind. So we'll try and meditate on this and get a feel of this today. So find a comfortable posture, either on the cushion or chair. If you're sitting on a chair, helps to keep your feet firmly on the ground. The idea is to be relaxed, yet alert. So if you're sitting on sitting on a cushion, you can sit cross-legged. You can keep your hands resting in your lap, thumbs touching. You can keep your back straight, but not tense. Chin tucked in. Eyes slightly open to let some light in, or you can close them if you so prefer. Rest your gaze on the ground in front of you. So relax your body and let go of all tension. Paying special attention to your shoulders, your jaw, your neck, wherever you can see and feel tension, just let it go. Let's begin by taking 3 deep breaths, breathing in deeply through our nostrils, both nostrils, bringing the air down to our stomach, holding it for a moment, and then exhaling slowly and gently through your mouth. Now breathe normally, in and out through your nose. Observe your breathing without thinking, without conceptualizing. Now imagine lying on a hilltop and staring at the sky that's completely clear and free of clouds. Concentrate on this vast, unobstructed emptiness. Imagine that it flows down and fills you and your surroundings completely. Everything becomes empty like space. thoughts and distractions will arise, do not react to them. Neither follow them, nor reject them. Remember, they are clear by nature, without substance. Simply watch them come and go, and then return to the awareness of your mind's clarity. There's no need to wonder what the mind is. Simply observe it. It's clear like nature. It's like infinite, empty space. Just stay with this for a while. Relax your concentration and bring your awareness gently back to the room. Let's dedicate the positive energy we have created to the happiness and welfare of everyone. How's that? Not too hard? Yeah. Okay, we'll do another meditation at the end of the session. So let's now turn to the topic of our presentation today, the third and the fourth Noble Truths. Cessation of suffering. State of cessation of suffering, the third Noble Truth. It's just an amazing idea, isn't it? Not to have any suffering, ever. So, having recognized true suffering that we experience and identified its true causes, so Buddha went on to discover that it is possible to completely and totally eliminate suffering from our experience. We just don't have to reduce its intensity or reduce its frequency or just get better at handling it. Of course, these things are good on our journey, but ultimately we can be completely free from suffering and its causes forever. That's the truth of cessation. So once we understand the first two Noble Truths, we understand that suffering comes from our mind. So we create the suffering through our own confusion. It's not something objective, real, inevitable thing in the universe or in our experience. It's totally and completely created by our mind. So this gives us a wonderful opportunity to be free from it. Because our mind created it out of confusion, we can clear it up. We can fix the confusion in our minds and remove the basis for the suffering experience. So until we really test Buddha's teaching on suffering and its causes, and until we have a firm conviction that how all this arises from our mind, then this third truth of cessation of suffering might actually seem a bit fanciful. It may seem supernatural or even absurd. How can you be in that state? But this gets back to Buddha's instruction that we really need to engage our wisdom and intelligence to test things. Otherwise, we can't really change and transform our minds. But if we can understand or even directly see that our confused and fabricated self-image, this Ashvini, this me, leads to a flurry of all these disturbing activity and suffering, then we can also see how a correct understanding of me, as a dependently arisen phenomena, can totally end this suffering. So it's important to note that cessation is possible. Cessation of suffering is possible because the nature of our mind is clear. We did this meditation on clarity of mind together. So the confusion, all the disturbing emotions that bother us, they're like clouds, in the otherwise clear and unstained sky. So if we remove the causes for suffering, if we remove the causes for these clouds, what remains is the clear sky. So we don't have to create or build or get a clear sky. We just have to remove these clouds, the disturbing emotions and their causes. So we should also understand that cessation is not some deep, desensitizing, absorbed meditation. That we're just tuning out of this world and going into an imagined alt reality. Because if that was the case, then it would be temporary too. Because when we came back to the world, the problem would still be there. So it's not just a deep meditation in which we ignore our problems. We actually confront them and eliminate them. So it is said that the state of cessation is also a superior state of experience than anything that we can ordinarily experience. It's beyond what we can think, we can imagine our experience could be. But this, of course, is a very lofty goal. It seems so far away from our current reality. So far away from our current reality of ordinary existence. But fortunately the journey towards this goal is rewarding in itself. Our mind gradually improves. At each step we see some benefits for our worldly or spiritual practice. So we don't have to engage in spiritual practice on the faith that one day we'll be liberated or we'll have cessation of suffering. So as we practice, we should be able to see immediate improvements in our mind, which reinforce our motivation towards this ultimate goal. I think it's just to draw a picture of what a state of cessation would look like. But I think I'll move on to the noble truth of the path. That's the fourth noble truth. So, in the fourth noble truth, Buddha revealed skillful means to get to this state of cessation. And it's referred to as the path. So it's a progression of levels or states of mind, the states of mind, which act as a pathway to the ultimate state of cessation. You can see the mind evolving and changing to a stage where you can have the experience of ultimate cessation. So most commonly it is understood as a set of spiritual practices, that help us to generate better and better states of mind. His Holiness the Dalai Lama often says that the true path is what mends the mind, makes the mind better. The methods we utilize to transform an angry, impatient mind to something that's more tolerant, more useful, more relaxed, wiser and stronger. We change a mind that's self-centered or egotistical to a mind that cares about the well-being of others. We transform a craving mind into one that's more satisfied, more content. So in short, we can all, as Buddha did, transform our minds from its current ordinary state to its ultimate potential, the enlightened state of being. So there are many different ways to understand and explain the path. And it's no accident. Buddha understood that we all have different minds and taught in different ways to suit the varying disposition of his students. It's said that he taught 84,000 different methods to achieve the state of cessation. So this variety of spiritual practices persists today across different schools of Buddhism. Various traditions explain the path as either the Eightfold Path or the three high trainings or the three principal aspects of path and so on. And each of these is a very profound presentation. But all these presentations include the ultimate training of developing a correct understanding of how things really exist. Fixing this ignorance or misapprehension of a permanent, independent, solid self-image. And this is referred to as wisdom, or correct view, or the right view. So intellectual understanding and then meditating on this correct view is at the heart of the path. And we can understand why. Because misapprehension of the way we exist was the cause of our suffering, as we talked in the second Noble Truth. And only by fixing this misapprehension, we can stop suffering from arising and achieve cessation of suffering. So we already discussed this at length last time, so I won't spend more time on this. But I would like to discuss another fundamental aspect of the path in the Tibetan, especially in the Tibetan or Mahayana Buddhist tradition. And this is the altruistic wish to benefit others. So Buddha said that if we have developed a sincere attitude of wishing others to be free of suffering, to an extent that we develop a sense of personal responsibility to take this task on to benefit everyone and to end everyone's suffering, then we don't really need to be concerned with many other aspects of the path. This one practice alone can lead us to cessation or the state of enlightenment. So why does this altruistic wish to benefit others have such a strong place in the Tibetan or Mahayana Buddhist tradition? So on the face of it, does not seem related to anything that we have discussed thus far in the Four Noble Truths. So why is it my pathway to the cessation of suffering? So at some level maybe we can all relate to this in our everyday experience. So let's consider an example, albeit a little dramatic one. So let's imagine that we have been invited to a fancy dinner party. It's good to have a lot of important people or well-known people there. People, we care what these people think of us. maybe important to our careers or our social image or whatever. You know. So in the lead up to the party, we might be quite anxious. We might have trouble deciding what to wear. We might change our outfit a number of times. You know. In the car there, we might think about the kind of conversations we want to have. You know, what if we get awkward in a conversation, you know, and don't know what to say? And when we get there, we might be a bit self-conscious. We might be constantly thinking that people are watching or judging us. Yeah, we might be too nervous to say much at all, or leave the side of our partner. You know, we might be too nervous to move very quickly, lest we draw a lot of attention to ourselves. So, yeah, that's when this self-consciousness is very strong. And now imagine, you know, across the room, you know, someone is a toddler, a little child, and that child in some kind of danger. Maybe she's falling off the pram, or she's crawling towards an open window, or something like that. So in that moment, we might stop in the midst of our conversation, run across the room, you know, and grab the child, you know, take it out of harm's way, or shout across the room for you know, someone to help. So before we saw this child, we were completely focused on ourselves. Small problems, what to say, where to walk, seemed huge and powerful enough to take over our entire experience of the party. We are clearly not relaxed, rife with anxiety and mental suffering. And this self-cherishing attitude, we can see at that time, was consuming us, completely preoccupied with ourselves. In the next moment, when the object of our concern in our mind shifted to someone else, albeit momentarily, you know, when we swapped our self-cherishing attitude to cherishing the other, even if it was just one child, in that moment, we feel this release from this tight grip of self-consciousness, of self-cherishing mind, of self-cherishing attitude. So we could be moving freely across the room, shout if we need to. We don't at that time care about what others think of us. You know, the problems that were once large, how we look, what we say, totally irrelevant. So we experienced a great sense of relief, which was from this anxiety that was previously occupying our mind. So I thought of this in terms, you know, in just to bring home the ideas that how we can get release from anxiety the moment our mind shifts to someone else, from ourselves. So this is idea is not unique to Buddhism. You know, Saint Francis of Assisi famously said, "For it is in giving that we receive." Sometimes when we are feeling overwhelmed or sad, you know, and we can think of others or get involved in helping them, it takes our thoughts away from our own problems. We're actually receiving something from them. Increases our sense of empathy, self-worth. In fact, there's a lot of scientific research now on this phenomena, which is known as helper's high. Using functional MRIs, they can see that when we are perpetrating acts of kindness, the same parts of the brain are stimulated, which are stimulated when we have pleasure or reward. You know, same centers which are activated when we have food or when we have sex. All these is the same areas that light up. So how does this relate back to our topic of discussion, the Four Noble Truths? So this psychological experience goes right to the heart of what Buddha explains suffering and what suffering is and how it arises. So we have spoken a few times about this how our it's totally fabricated self-image. What we see ourselves as is at the center of our universe. All our energy is dedicated towards protecting or enhancing it. Everything we do is in relation to the self-image that we have fabricated. And from this self-cherishing attitude arises attachment and aversion, things that we want or things that we do not want. And from these, a whole set of confusing, disturbed emotions arise. Anger, when we don't get what we want. Jealousy at those who have what we want. Greed towards what we want. And compulsive actions and karma. This is the entire sphere of our suffering. So we can see that if we weaken this self-cherishing attitude, this obsession with our self-image, we would be weakening the very foundation on which all these disturbing emotions and these compulsive actions are built. So we would be eliminating this, center of our suffering universe, which is this fabricated image that we have created for ourselves. So how do we do this? One way is to, of course, see how we truly exist, not as a fixed, permanent self. But the other way is to practice the opposite of self-cherishing, cherishing others. So when we generate this altruistic wish to cherish others, we are attacking this self-cherishing attitude directly. Because the object of focus in our mind is not self-cherishing, it is cherishing others. And the good news is that we can cultivate this wish to cherish others. We can switch the object of our concern in our mind from ourselves to others. So instead of focusing on our own desires, we can instead focus on improving the welfare of others. So we can really train ourselves to care about others as much as we care about ourselves now. This switch of self-cherishing attitude to one that cherishes others is very profound and wonderful Buddhist practice of equalizing and exchanging oneself with others. So once this very strong self-cherishing mind is shifted to cherishing others, our suffering immediately subsides. And we also help elevate the suffering of others. But yet this tendency does not come naturally to us. And there are said to be two main obstacles to such an attitude, developing such an attitude. The first is a very strong sense of discrimination between the self and others, as if self and others are totally independent and separate. In fact, if we examine closely, self and others are only relative. So from my point of view, I am the self and you are the other. And from your point of view, you are the self and I am the other. So there is no absolute self. It's relative. It just happens to be viewed from the perch that we are sitting on. And the second obstacle is to cherishing others is that we have this natural feeling of indifference. Because we feel that suffering and happiness of others is not our business. They don't matter to us. But when we start to realize that our own happiness comes from working for others, if we develop a conviction in that through our personal experience or meditation, so we can transfer this strong emotional attachment we have with our own welfare to the welfare of others. So the moment you see that your own happiness is directly coming from helping others, then it starts to make sense. But, whenever we start thinking of about the welfare of others, our mind is often filled with a strong bias or discrimination. We classify people as, some people as friends, some as enemies, and the others as strangers. And we respond to them with emotions of love, anger, or indifference. If we question, what is the basis for this designation? How do we designate people into, this is my friend, this is an enemy, and this is a stranger? So, people who have been nice to us, we classify as our friends, and those who are nasty, our enemies, and with those with whom we have no such interactions, those strangers, they don't matter. So the very basis of this classification is how a person behaves with me. So if I see a person who is my friend behaves badly, with someone else, I don't regard him as my enemy. I may advise him to do otherwise. But so long as he's nice to me, he's a friend and worthy of all my love. So it's our self-cherishing attitude again. That's at the heart of seeing some as friends, some as enemies, and some as strangers. There's nothing objective about the attributes of these people. The only thing that matters is how they behave with me. So sometimes you may think that we are practicing altruistic, wishing benefit to others. But in fact, we may just be strengthening our self-cherishing attitude. We are helping someone because they are my friend, or helping my friends as a part of my self-image. So equanimity is the basis, the foundation on which this practice rests. So all of us have, pure love, the wish to benefit others within us. We just have to just experience it. We often mix it with other feelings, self-cherishing, attachment, and so forth. But it's still there. And it's not fixed in quantity. The more we train in love and compassion, the wish for others to be free of suffering, the more they increase. It's not something that runs out. So increasing this attitude in our daily life, and also through meditation, is a defining feature of Mahayana Buddhist tradition or the Tibetan Buddhist path. So with that in mind, let's do a short meditation on this attitude together. Now sit comfortably. Relax your body. and mind, let all thoughts and worries subside. Mindfully observe your breath until you are calm and your awareness is focused in the here and now. Think that you are doing this meditation for the benefit of yourself and others, to generate more positive energy, loving energy in your mind and send it out to others, to the world. Start by imagining all living beings sitting around you. Sitting close to you are people for whom your feeling of love naturally arises. Say your mother is on your left, your father on your right, and other relatives and friends are around you and behind you. Or choose anyone that helps to generate this feeling of love. Now visualize in front of you those you dislike and those who have hurt you. And extending in every direction, right to the horizon, or all other beings. Feel that they are there, all in human form, sitting quietly like you. If it is difficult to visualize all beings, think of as many as you can, comfortably. Stay relaxed. Don't feel crowded or tense. But imagine that there is a sense of harmony and peace pervades everyone. Consider how nice it would be for yourself and others if you are able to love all these beings. Contemplate that everyone wants to be happy and to avoid suffering, just as you do. They're all trying to make the best of their lives, even those who are angry and violent. Now generate a feeling of love in your heart. You can do this by thinking of someone you love or letting your natural good feelings for this person to arise. You might like to imagine your love as a warm, bright light, not physical, but pure positive energy glowing in your heart. Before you can truly love others, you need to love yourself. Loving yourself means accepting yourself as you are, with your present faults and shortcomings, and recognizing that you have the potential to free yourself from all these problems. So really wish yourself all the happiness and goodness there is. Imagine that the warm energy in your heart expands until it completely fills your body and mind. If you have a habit of being critical, judgmental, or even angry towards yourself, it'll take time to change this. So maybe you will not suddenly feel love for yourself. But if you say to yourself, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be safe, may I live with ease, then gradually these thoughts and feelings will grow and become genuine. It's enough for now just to think this way and say these words to yourself. May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be safe, may I live with ease. Now, meditate on love for others. Start with your family and close friends sitting near you. Say in your mind words such as, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you live with ease. Imagine the warm, luminous energy radiating from your body, touching them and filling their bodies and mind, bringing them the happiness they wish for. Again, don't worry if you don't actually feel the love. It's enough to say these words and think these thoughts. In time, the feeling will come. Think next of some people that you're not so close to. There could be people that you work with, neighbors, fellow shoppers in the supermarket, fellow drivers on the road. Reflect that they, just like you, want to be happy and deserve to be happy. See if you can feel the wish for them to be happy by thinking, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you live with ease. And send this radiant energy of love from your heart to them, and imagine that they experience the happiness they wish for. Now turn your attention to the people in front of you, those you have difficulty with. Contemplate that they also need and deserve your love. Wish them to be free of confusion, anger, and self-centeredness that drives them to act the way they do. You really want them to find peace of mind, happiness, and finally enlightenment. Think and try to feel sincerely. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease. Imagine this radiant energy of love flows from your heart to them, and they experience the happiness they wish for. Continue to send this positive, warm feeling out to all other people around you. Love is an unlimited spring of good energy, so you shouldn't worry that it'll run out. Completely open your heart and imagine your love flowing to every direction, reaching all beings who are lonely, sick, hungry, confused, oppressed, frustrated, frightened. Their suffering disappears and their minds become peaceful, clear, and full of pure happiness. Wish them to have every good experience, from the satisfaction of ordinary needs and desires all the way to enlightenment. Concentrate on this feeling of love as long as possible. Let's conclude this session by thinking that you definitely have the potential to love everyone, even those who annoy you or hurt you, and even those you don't even know. So generate a strong wish to work with your own anger, impatience, selfishness, and other problems that prevent you from having such a love. Keeping your mind open and trying to overcome this self-cherishing attitude, you leave much space in your head for pure universal love, and thus happiness for yourself and others to develop. Finally, let's dedicate the positive energy of your meditation to all beings and wish that they find happiness and enlightenment. I think I'll leave my presentation there for the night. I hope I have not presented too much or confused you with too many ideas. On the one hand, it seems like a lot to do, lot to digest, but the Buddha also put it up very simply in saying, do not commit any unwholesome action, commit only wholesome actions, subdue your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. That's a good note to finish on. So any questions? So I'll invite you to dedicate the time and effort you've put in over the past hour or so, indeed past several weeks with me. Thank you very much. Sit in a comfortable position and think back to the initial motivation you set for yourself at the start of the session. Bring that to mind and generate the strong wish that any beneficial outcome from the time you've spent contemplating your presence here, anything that you thought about, may it become a cause for you to achieve your motivation, may be of benefit to you and all those around you. This is my last presentation this year, and I think Kathy is leading presentations in October. She is a very inspiring practitioner. I'm sure you'll find her presentations very, very beneficial. And thank you all for coming. There's some tea and coffee, or cake, hopefully cake in the dining room. So I'll be around to, and of course, Cynthia has so kindly come here to make an announcement. So I'll hand over the mic to